Hello and welcome to my review of Back in Love City, the most recent released album by The Vaccines, their fifth studio album, their first one since 2018's Combat Sports. Why am I doing this? Well, because me and my girlfriend, we sat down and we were like, oh, let's listen to an album that neither of us have listened to before, and then just like talk about it or whatever, and I ended up suggesting this one, and I felt like I wanted to talk about it more, so I'm going to record all my thoughts, send them out into the world. What qualifies me to do this? I'm not a Vaccines fan. I've listened to about two of their songs before, If You Wanna and Norgard. I enjoyed them both very much. This album is I think we'll soon find out, very different to those songs. Nothing really qualifies me as a music fan either. I've not really any formal qualifications in music. I'm not very good at music either. I'm just going to spew out opinions in every direction. Hopefully some of them mean something to you. I'll be going through the album track by track, talking about all my thoughts. I will not be playing any clips from the album, so you're going to have to listen on your own. I'd recommend listening through it at the same time I am, but I know that's not really practical. It would take 45 minutes of your life, so if you don't want to, that's fine. I will try and describe them as vividly as possible, and let's get started then. Track number one, it's Back in Love City. We start off with the title track, of course, starting off vibrantly, immediately repeating the lyric that starts off the album. It's repeating the title over and over again. That's a perfect way to start. Instantly, straight out the gate, this album, the starting gun is fired. Ran straight into the first title. Of course, I don't like the starting of the song. I don't like the repeating of the saving up, now we're back in Love City part. The album and this song specifically, certain songs in the album have got this problem where the chorus, it's just not as strong as the verses, and this one starts with the chorus, so it doesn't start on the right foot. When it hits to the verses, it is good. This song is kind of good in the sense that it has got a pre-chorus where he repeats ready now, the world knows I'm in love with you, which I think sounds really good, especially the fact when he says ready now. And the second chorus, we can't buy love because we spent it all on you, is very good. It's an upbeat, the instrumental is very good. I enjoy the instrumental, it's very happy. It evokes this feeling of arriving in a place, which we are, arriving in Love City. We're very excited to be here, we're excited to explore. It evokes feelings of Las Vegas. I watched an interview with the band, which I'm going to refer to a lot throughout this video, and they sort of said that the song wasn't based on Las Vegas, but it really does feel that way. And they talked about they sort of were inspired because they went on a road trip from LA to Vegas, and it sort of reminded them of when they pulled into Las Vegas, sort of as the lights were going down, that sort of feeling, the mystique of the city. Speaking of Vegas, the whole album kind of deals with the theme of America and what that means to different people, and sort of the mythos of America, as opposed to, it's not really the real America, it's more the fictionalized version of it, and this song deals with that as well. It's not that crazy on the instrumental. I enjoy it. It's not anything groundbreaking. I like it. I like the song generally. It does have some bits that pull it down. Of course, the starting bit. But I think it is quite a strong start to this album. It is a single, so they've roped us in well here. I think normally there's a lot of pressure on the first song of the album. I don't think it lives up to the pressure fully. I think it is a good song. We get to track 2, which is A Lone Star, reference to the Lone Star State, of course. That's where the album was recorded, in Texas, in a little place in El Paso, which is another name of a song which you'll get to later in the album. Lone Star is the second single of this album. It's very poppy, and I think that's what a lot of people took issue with whenever the album came out, was how poppy it was, considering what the Vaccines it came from and where they'd sort of built their fan base. People thought it was too pop. I think the song sounds very cliched. It takes no risks at all. It is very what you'd expect from a typical pop song. The chorus line is "You are not alone." That's probably as easy as they come. I do think it sounds it sounds good, but it makes me feel like I'm about to buy a laptop. It's got that sort of Chromebook vibes to it. It's a bit odd in a way that it comes out like that. I don't really like the instrumental as well. It goes for that sort of Wild West guitar. It doesn't really do a lot for me. It feels a little bit bland. I like the chorus when he sings. I do think the singing is quite strong in this album generally. There are some points where it's a little bit weaker, but I like it when he's singing more than the brass instrumental that follows whenever he finishes the last "You Are Not Alone." I think the biggest indictment of this song was after a few times I'd listened to it, I just couldn't remember it in my head. I could remember Back in Love City. I could remember Headphones Baby, which is the main single of the album and the next track that we'll be talking about. But this song, I could just not remember what it was about or what it even sounded like, and that's not good at all, especially for the second single of your album. It should be doing an awful lot better. And then you find out how the song was made. This is kind of an easy way to insult the song is I watched the interview with the band, and then they said they recorded this song for their album English Graffiti, which I believe is their third album, and decided it wasn't good enough, so they didn't use it. And then they were going to use it on their next album, Combat Sports, but then they didn't really know, so they didn't use it then either. But now they put it out now, so it kind of feels like, is this song, is it good enough? I'm surprised that they've even used it at all. They did say they've made a lot of changes to it. I'm sure they have, but it does feel a bit of a weird inclusion to leave a song out for two albums, and then pull it back now. And it's not really, again, we've not got a definite blow so far in terms of a good song. This one is, it's good, but it's not earth-shattering. It doesn't really leave much of an impression, whereas the first song was good and bad at the same time. It had good bits, had bits I didn't enjoy. This song just doesn't really leave that much of an impact. Speaking of songs that do leave an impact though, here we are then, track 3, the lead single, Headphones Baby. Headphones Baby, Headphones Baby, Headphones Baby. This whole song feels like an exercise in him trying to cram in the words headphones baby as many times as he possibly can. God knows how many he gets up to by the end, but it gets certainly annoying very quickly. If Back in Love City was like this being the good aspects, this being the bad aspects, the gap between them being that, this song is just stretching it so much, because you have that initial intro as well as it sort of being the sort of first chorus, and then you compare it to that second chorus and the verses, which are so much better. And I love the creepy undertones of wanting to die with someone, talking about the Hollywoodness when they goes into almost that, hits the high notes, and wanting to live in leather in Hollywood together. Don't you want to die forever? Die forever. Die together. Dying forever would be awful. No one would want to do that. And it just gets so much better. Other than that bit by headphones, it's hard to see past, and every time you listen to the song you just want that bit to be over. But I can understand why people do like it. It feels like any old pop song, it feels like anyone could have written it. And I think that's why some people like it, is because they generally like pop songs. I don't really, generally speaking, I don't listen to the sort of safe radio hits, so to speak, and this does feel a bit like one of those. Lyricism is generally good though throughout the verses and the well, I'm going to call it the real chorus, be a little bit edgy, but there is one line that is absolutely awful at the very end in the bridge when he says, "You can't pop the question if you're live on Reddit." That line single-handedly tipped the scales in the negative direction for me, because you've got two bad aspects and two good aspects. The first chorus, that Reddit line, and then you have the verses and the second chorus. It's 2-2 at the moment. So at the moment, very mixed feelings about the album. These are the 3 of the 4 singles. This would be very off-putting for the Vaccine's existing fan base, considering how poppy they've all been compared to their previous output. So I feel like a lot of them might have just sort of given up on the album by this point, because this might have been all you've heard, and you're just assuming it's all going to be pop. We're going to talk through the whole album. There's still 10 more songs to go. It definitely isn't all pop, but I can understand their worries and their concerns at this point of the album. I feel like this song would be great if they just toned down the Headphones Baby just a bit, and they changed the name of it so it didn't feel like he was trying to cram that in, and just called it something like "Do You Want to Die Together?" That would have been a pretty good song. At the moment though, it's the definition of mixed feelings. Every single song so far has been mixed feelings after mixed feelings. Let's end that. Let's leave the mixed feelings behind. We're going to song number 4. It's called Wanderlust. It's our first non-single, and it's our first non-pop song. Do I like it or don't I? I'd say just take a listen to it for yourself. I was listening to this album, I listened to the first 3 songs, and I think I was almost, the initial abrasiveness of Headphones Baby and then also Back in Love City didn't really rope me in. I couldn't remember Lone Star, of course, because that song left absolutely no impression on me at all. So then I got to Wanderlust, and I feel like this was sort of the turning point where if I didn't like Wanderlust, I probably would have given up, wouldn't have listened anymore. But Wanderlust, I think, is genuinely the best song on the album. It is so far above anything else. The aggressive guitar, I'm not even like an aggressive music fan at all. I always joke with my girlfriend, she's always into aggressive music, and I'm not. I'm little indie Mark who likes sad indie songs. This is not a sad indie song. This is powerful, aggressive. I love the intro guitar just before the first chorus. The chorus is amazing. The verses are amazing. And I want to tell you a little story I heard about the fuzzy guitar at the start. It was actually a gift from the bass player to the main guitarist of a fuzz pedal, and the guitarist wasn't going to use it, but then he used it out of politeness, really, and it works so well. This is the song that really opens the album for me, because so far it's so like, you know, is that good? Is it not good? There's bad bits, there's good bits. No bad bits about this song. Just the one criticism is in the chorus when he says, "Help me build a big great concrete wall around my feelings." Doubt keeps creeping in. I always feel like it should be feelings, because then he talks about doubt, and I feel like that would be better. But I suppose you couldn't get the exact rhyme then with railings. I don't think you'd need the exact rhyme. Feelings and railings aren't too far apart, especially the way he sings it, which is exceptional throughout this song. This song really sets up the album. Shows there's going to be more than just the pop songs and maybe the safe indie guitar songs like a Lone Star. It's hard to even talk about because it's just such a good song. Take a listen to it for yourself. It's an absolute treat. If you listen to one song throughout this video, please listen to Wanderlust. Let's move on. So we had our non pop interlude. Let's left the world of pop. We're gonna do a U-turn. We're gonna come straight back into pop. Paranormal Romance, our fifth song. It's similar to Wanderlust in one way and one way only, and that it's difficult for me to talk about because I have such... I don't know how I feel about this song. Well, I do know how I feel. I don't like it, but it's hard to say why. It's just, I find it kind of cringeworthy to listen to. I feel like the lyrics especially, they feel jumbled with loose connections. It feels like it's him just trying to list paranormal things, because that's the name of the song. It's called Paranormal Romance. We should talk about vampires in it, because that would make sense. The instrumental is good, although it does feel kind of like a bad Eurovision song. And as someone who likes Eurovision, I can tell when I hear a bad Eurovision song. I don't really like the backing vocals. The opera is brave, the opera voice in the background, but I don't really like that either. It's the first song in the album I dislike. There's only 3 songs. I know we talked about how mixed the first singles were, but I'd say generally speaking I do actually like them. There's 3 songs I don't like, and this is the first one of them. It doesn't really have anything to do with the theme of the album, because there's only one other song which I feel has any sort of paranormal connection to it. We'll talk about that one in the future. But it just doesn't fit well, and the orchestral version which they put up on their YouTube is good. It has a nice cinematic feel to it, and it works because it's got that, you know, vampires, silver screen, that kind of feeling does work. But it's a song I skip. I'm just going to be honest, I don't enjoy it that much. I like the bit where he, on the first verse, "I want to live superlative," that bit sounds quite nice, but you should take a listen to the orchestral version if you're interested. Link to that in the description. As we move on to track number 6, it's El Paso, our final single. First 3 singles were a mixed bag. This is the only one where I have a completely fluid opinion about it. No mixed feelings here. It's the slowest single. It's the most somber single. It is by far the best single. The lamenting chorus, "Who wants to live like this?" works so perfectly. It's not exactly the craziest song in the world. It's not going to light the world on fire. It's just, you know, it's a good chorus. The verses just are a way to go from A to B, get to the chorus where he just laments his life and just lays it all out there. He says it's the song he finds most relatable to him. And I think the simplicity of it works very well. They talked a lot about simplicity in making this album. The next 3 songs really, I think, is where that applies, including this one. And I think it's the continued themes of America as well. They recorded the album in El Paso. It's not named after El Paso. There's some crazy convoluted story about how the song's name came about. I'm not going to bore you with the details. I think it's just a good one to listen to, just because it's just the vocals throughout the chorus just carry it. It's not crazy. It's 3 minutes. It's just a pop song, really. The simple acoustic guitar and the light background evokes those country themes. It's a small town US vibes. We've sort of gone from the big LA, Vegas and the other singles to going down to the smaller town vibes of the US, and it works very well to the album. Definitely the best of the 4 singles. Talking about singles, we've got the pseudo single now, released 2 days before the album came out. It is Jump Off the Top. Staying simple, it's the last pop song of the album. We're going to be changing it up after this, and there's nothing really here of substance. It is so earwormy. It's just, let's jump off the top. Yeah, we'll just do that over and over again. The lyrics are poor. It just feels like he's trying to rhyme things with top, and he went with rock, which doesn't really work. And I used to hate it. I've grown on it a bit because it feels just like taking a sugar pill, you know, referring to the album's cover, of course. The rest of the album might be the medicine. This one is just the placebo. There's not really anything good here. It feels like the song that plays at the credits of a kids movie. There's not that much substance. The instrumental is fun and playful, and I feel like this song really, comes down to how it was developed. It started in 2018, and they played it live a few times, and it was more guitar-y then, which I suppose the whole album will be when it's live. And then it became sort of more poppy and less guitar-y when they released it now, but they felt obligated to put it out, even though maybe it was something they weren't going to pursue themselves. And I can't really blame them for that. If something the fans sort of enjoyed live, they may as well put it out. They may as well keep playing it live. Why not? And it's not really worked for me that much. I'd say I do like it, but it's not something I'll ever put on. I'm not going to be like, yo, I need to listen to Jump Off the Top. Whereas I would say, El Paso, that's a good song for this mood. I'm going to put that on. Never going to do that for Jump Off the Top. Don't hate it though. It's not Paranormal Romance. So we've made it to the sort of midway point of the album. It's going to be XCT, our next song. XCT meaning X City. It's a play on the Love City theme. It's going, instead of the city being vibrant and alive, it's what it would be if it was dead. The artist describes it as being more falling out of love than falling into love, and it starts, as I said before, the sort of second half of the album. No more pop songs. Pop songs are done. They're finished. There's not any more of them left. They're not all like this, though, for the rest of the album. This is a punky, aggressive tune, more pop punk than hardcore stuff. But elephant in the room is that I don't like it at all. I really find it quite tedious, the way they spell out words like H-A-T-E, hate me. I think that sounds a bit cringeworthy. I don't take any pleasure from it. It's definitely a skip for me whenever I'm listening to the album. It doesn't do a whole lot for me. I can understand why it has a good place in the album though, because of course it does set up that second half of the album, but it doesn't work for me. It's not my type of music, and it's not like Wanderlust, which is able to bridge that gap. Even though it was not a type of music I usually like, it was still good enough that I could see the quality in it, and I loved it nonetheless. This song it's a bit too generic, and it doesn't really do a whole lot for me. It's the second song that I don't like after Paranormal Romance from the first half. Speaking of songs that I do like though, let's slide over to the next track. Track number 9 is Bandit. It's a good album track. It's just one of those songs that will never be a single, but it just sits on the back half of this album and is so good. It really works exceptionally well. I love how the guitar plays with the vocals. The guitarist in this band throughout the whole album, you don't really hear the bass, you don't really hear the drums. I know the drummer is new to the band, more so than the rest of them, so maybe he didn't have as much of an influence in the creation of songs, but the guitarist really, he gets his moments throughout this album, definitely. The simple chorus, the guitar work really is taking center stage on the verses as well. The lyricism is very good. One of my favourite lines in the whole album has got to be the second line about let's stop seeing other people, let me be your favourite Beatle. I just love how the guitars and the vocals play with each other. It's just a fun old track. Bandit makes you think of old Wild West America. It works quite well, fills out the album nicely, and is definitely one of the better songs, probably in my top 5. What's definitely not in my top 5 is the next song, The People's Republic of Desire. Bit of a lengthy title. It doesn't warrant a lengthy title at all. It's the last of the songs that I don't like. It's very similar to XCT. It's another generic pop punk outing. It's the forced repetition of The People's Republic of Desire, though, as a lyric that kills it for me. Just don't enjoy it at all. It feels very, very forced. This song refers to a documentary about the People's Republic of China. It doesn't link thematically to the album as well, because the album is mainly about America. I find the thing quite generally boring. I do enjoy the first 50 seconds or so before we hit the first chorus, and it sort of gets ruined. The first verse is decent. That is the theme, of course, as we talked about for the album. The verses tend to be a lot better than the chorus. I did enjoy the second verse about the bit about jokes and talking about canned laughter. It was maybe a little bit forced, but I think it sounded nice. I enjoyed listening to that part. It doesn't really tonally match the rest of the album. I don't think XCT, it's very inextricably linked to the album, of course, talking about X City, all the stuff about that city and, you know, things being sort of dying. Whereas this song, it doesn't really have that inherent link. The fact it talks about China as well, it could be easily taken out. It should probably be taken out, and the album wouldn't be any different as far as I can see. And would probably be fun to scream in a crowd though, which is probably the reason why it's here. They talked about wanting to play it live. I can sort of understand that, and I suppose that XCT have a place in this world, just as a song that you can scream in a big massive crowd, which is something I think everyone would like post-pandemic. We're going to keep pushing through then to Savage. If People's Republic of Desire was a follow-up to XCT, Savage is a follow-up to Bandit. It's another good album track. It's not quite on the level of Bandit. It's also the only song that really connects the paranormal romance at all, with the current constant references to God and humans and the differences between them. It's fun that way. It's not really lyrically something that interests me as much, because I don't really like the use of the word savage. I don't know why. It's just a word that I don't like. Vibe as well. I know I've said vibe a few times in this video, making me the world's biggest hypocrite. But still, it's not really a concept that I like. But I think the lyrics do sound quite nice, even though the bit when there's no lyrics, of course, after he says, I want to be ravaged all the time, feels very barren. It feels like that repetition in the background, the ravaged all the time. They could be thrown in a few more times to spice things up a little bit. But the synthesizers and the fuzzy guitars are fun. The instrumental is good. I love the line, matching up, they're not catching us up. That sounds quite well. I love the sort of lifting in the background for it. It's a fun song. It's probably the 6th best song on the album. I'd say it's a good song. I'd recommend it to people, but it doesn't really work divorced from context. I don't think it's really got its own two legs to stand on. I think it's quite dependent with this album. It would never be released as a single. Moving on then, we've sort of finished. This is sort of the middle section of the album, from by XCT to Savage. That line of 4 tracks is finished. We're going to move to the final 2 tracks, which are something completely different to everything we've had before. The pace slows considerably as we go into track number 12, which is Heartland, the least streamed song on the album. Is it any good? I definitely say so. The tone has changed. We've become a bit more contemplative. You know, this album, it starts quite heavy on the pop, then it goes a bit more rocky in the middle, and now it's changed to being more contemplative. Heartland, it deals with childhood views of America. It's sort of written from that 13-year-old teenage boy perspective of how America is the place where all the movies come from, where all the culture comes from, and something that is amazing and we all want to visit, and it's so cool. But then it also acknowledges that America, you know, we realize as we get older, it isn't as great as we expected. It's got a lot of problems, and my favorite line in the song is "Land of Hope and Paradox," which I think sums up America very well. One line in it as well, which I think is very funny, is Hamburger Adventureland, which is an interesting way of describing America, which I suppose is accurate. I feel like this is the only song on the album, well, I would say at least for me, but I feel like the rest of them aren't. That's not the goal. The only song I think is really relatable to anyone. It's the only song that I think you can see yourself in the same way. You're not going to go, oh, my girlfriend's a bloody savage, am I right? Oh, I want to be ravaged all the time. Maybe you would. I don't know. But this is the only song I found with any real relatability in. It's an apolitical song, which is interesting because you're writing about a country and sort of what people think of it. There is a temptation you could go political. They chose not to. I think that's a good decision. I don't think it would work politically. I think we have too many forced political commentaries in the last, I'm getting political now, but you know, in the Trump years of America, there was a lot of forced, oh, America's gone down the tubes recently, whereas this song is acknowledging that America has never been a utopia. It's never been perfect. It's not saying America is bad. It's not saying America's gotten worse. It's just saying, you know, it's not a film. There is things wrong with it, and they wrote the song in El Paso, they said, with the border wall running through the town, and that was where the forced separation camps were during the Trump era. That's not what the song is about, but I do think it all sort of ties in with the mythos of it. I think you can see the song is a little bit boring. I've not talked about it all musically, I've talked it all about thematically, but I feel like that's where the song is. It is a thematic song. I think it's understated. I think it does its job well. It ties in thematically perfectly with the album. Sort of the thematic closer with the America stuff, because the last song we're going to talk about doesn't really link to that at all. I think it's very reflective of the album's sort of view of Love City, which is in a way is kind of just America, and it's nice how it closes like that one. The chorus though is a banger. The 2 lines, losing you, where can I dream, either coast or in between, sounds so good, especially the end of the song closes it very well. Some people don't like it because it's like too patriotic for America, and it's a British band and mainly British people listening to music. I can understand that, but I don't think that's really the point. And I think you can't just think of it as blindly praising America. It's not going to be that, really. Apparently these songs were written all by non-American people, so there wasn't really anyone who was being patriotic about it. They were just, you know, saying how they felt about it, and I think it comes across really well. Definitely one of my favourite songs in the album. We made it to the end. Track number 13, Pink Water Pistols. It's another reflective track. It's similar to Heartland in the fact the tempo is slowed down so much from the earlier tracks, which are all quite upbeat, all quite quick. Things have become more contemplative, things have become a lot slower. This song reflects on the world as it's ending, sort of meandering lyrics, assessing your own mindset, assessing your own thoughts as the album comes to a close. It works very well in that regard. The verses are absolutely superb, the first and second one. When I talk to myself, I feel there's someone listening. It sounds great. My favourite line of the whole album probably is, remember that night taking Mexican ecstasy, codeine, corrido, and crashing out next to me? Yes, I think and passing out next to me. I'm not sure exactly what it is off the top of my head. The choruses aren't quite as strong. Working on your mind's interior designs is a nice enough lyric, but I feel like just the obsession with rooms feels a bit odd. Well, talking about obsessions, this album has a bit of a theme running through it about cheeseburgers and like Hamburger Adventureland from Heartland, as well as mentioning of eating food and stuff. And the bridge in this song especially, where he talks about secret sauce cheese double deckers, that just felt so bizarrely out of place. Doesn't ruin the song, thankfully, but could have just not been there. It would have made me a bit happier. But this song, it is very good. The verses carry it definitely, but the verses are 10 out of 10. The chorus may be a 7 or 8 out of 10, but it's not bad. And it just ends the album really well. I think this album, my experience listening to it, if it stopped at Savage, I would have been so much more negative. It just lifts itself up at the very end with Heartland and Pink Water Pistols in such a way that just leaves you feeling positive about it. And it just ends the album perfectly. The only problem I think I have with it is it just ends on a high note. It like lifts up at the end, the music, and I'm just expecting them to come back and start screaming about how he's been working on his mind's interior design one more time. But he doesn't. It just ends just there and then. It sort of surprises me. But other than that, an excellent song, one of the best in the album. The 6 songs I would say that make this album worthwhile are definitely Wanderlust, no questions asked. El Paso, just very good, very, very good. Probably second best, I don't know. Depends what you think of Heartland. Bandit, Heartland, as I just said, sort of gave that one away. Savage isn't really, it's not quite as good as the others, but I'd still definitely mention it. And then, of course, Pink Water Pistols, the closer. 3 of the slowest songs on the album are there. Maybe that's where their strengths lie. Wanderlust is anything but a slow song, and Bandit and Savage aren't really either. It's the more aggressive songs. The most aggressive songs, aside from XCT and People's Republic of Desire, which are the 2 I don't like. So that's it overall then. I feel like the artist's goal with this album, they talked about it themselves, they wanted to write songs that they could play live, and I feel like that almost every one of these songs in this album feels like something you could just, scream at a concert. Maybe not the last 2 songs, Pink Water Pistols and Heartland, but the rest of them feel like something that they're songs that are meant to be played in front of people. People can sing along to them very well. They're quite simplistic in the choruses and stuff. Fans didn't enjoy it, but I feel like it's because of the first 3 singles being so poppy. I think people felt that it wasn't what they expected from the Vaccines, if you excuse the pun. But I think it still deserves its fair shake. I think it deserves a full listen through, definitely, because especially with that ending, it definitely deserves to be lifted up a little bit and given that fair shakedown. I mean, in the end, we had, 3 songs I didn't like. 1 song, which is Jump Off the Top, which I don't care for. Don't hate it, I just don't care for it at all. Savage is a bit, it's in between. It's good, it's not amazing. There's 5 songs I really like. And then, I can't remember what's it. Is that it? Yeah, I think so. I think that's all the songs. Then the singles, which I feel very mixedly about, Headphones, Baby, Lone Star, and Back in Love City. I could write so much positive stuff about them, but I could also say so much negatively. So the only thing that I think is left to do is to give the album a score out of 10. I give Back in Love City by the Vaccines a 7.9 out of 10, 79 out of 100. They're the exact same thing. But that's going to wrap up this video. I might make another one. I might not. Depends if I want to. Sorry I've talked a bit fast. This is my first time doing something like this. I hope you've enjoyed. I'll try and do it again sometime. See ya.